Hello everyone, very warm good evening to all of you. Welcome to Tathastu ICS and today I am going to take your DNA session. Okay, so today is 18th of March 2025. This is the front page of your The Hindu newspaper and we are going to do this important news which is on your front page along with that other news also. Let's see which news are important today. This is the QR code for the Telegram group from where you can access the PDF files. Okay, so let's start. Good morning, good evening everyone who are here right now. Okay, so these are the new courses which are starting at Tathastu ICS. If any one of you are interested in any of the courses, then you can have your inquiry. Okay, these are the news which we are going to cover today. So the first news is on your front page and it is related to the trade deficits. I hope you know about what is the meaning of trade deficit. By the name you can understand there is some kind of deficit in trade. Trade deficit means the difference between exports and imports. Obviously in our country imports are going to be more. Okay, imports are more. So if we are going to deduct the total amount of exports from imports, then we will get the trade deficit. If the things would have been the different, for example, let's talk about China. Here in China exports more than the imports. So China, there is always trade surplus. But in our country, because our imports are more and exports are less, that's why we are already in trade deficit. So that is not a big issue that why we are in trade deficit. But the good thing is that now the India's goods, we are not talking about the services, goods trade deficit at 42-month low. So that is something good. That is something good. Why it is good? Because if trade deficit is less, it means either our exports are increasing or our imports are decreasing. So that is a good sign. Increment in export is a good sign and decrease in the import is also a good sign. But we will see what is the exact reason why India's goods trade deficit is at a 42-month low. Okay, we are going to discuss in detail. Other than that, the second news is related to the H1B visa. I hope you all have heard this particular word in news. This is related to a visa in USA. Okay, US company actually gives or applies such kind of visa so that they can hire employees from the outside of their country, and not any kind of employees. They should be very those employees which are expertise in technical works. For example, in India, so many IT employees, okay, they usually want to migrate to USA. So they need this H1B visa. If someone want to work in Amazon in America or in Google, then the Google and Amazon is going to provide them H1B visa. So it is a non-immigrant visa which is being provided to the workers from outside the country. And why we are talking about this H1B visa? Why it was in news? In the previous term of Trump, you have heard about it. The moment that Trump was there, he actually put restrictions on the approval of H1B visa. So it created a huge fuss in India. Why? Because 70% of these visas are being provided to the Indian workers only, because in India we have these technical experts which want to work outside our country, mostly in USA. So that's why H1B visa approval are very important for Indians who are seeking job outside, right? And the Trump was not very easy during the time of Donald Trump to get this H1B visa. After that, Joe Biden was there. He was very lenient when it comes to the approval of H1B visa. But again, we all know that the Donald Trump is there. Then he can put restriction on the approval of H1B visa. So in this article, what we are going to know? We are going to know about the trends related to H1B visa, how the trend have changed from the 2000 to the 2024. So we are going to compare everything. What kind of things? For example, how many H1B visas was there for the bachelor degree or the master degrees, and how the things has changed, how the political scenario has affected the approval of H1B visa. As a country, Earlier, our share in H1B visa was 40% in 2000, but now it has increased to 70%. So, in all of the world, if USA is providing 100 visas, out of which 70 visas are being provided to Indians only. So, these are the few facts which we are going to explore in this second news. Third is related to New Delhi's perilous recalibration with the Taliban. So this article is actually written by a journalist which is based in Afghanistan, and he is actually giving us an analysis that India's engagement with Taliban, why, first of all, why our engagement with Taliban is necessary, and secondly, what kind of challenges it can pose on us as a country, or third thing, what can be a possible way out. So it is a very beautiful article which is going to tell us in detail that how New Delhi need to engage with the Taliban and why we are interacting with the Taliban in the first place, because we all know that Taliban is an extremist group. Okay, it is very much, very much a reason for the terrorist attacks all over the world. Okay, mostly in the Southeast Asian region. India as a country which has already been the victim of terrorism, why India as a country is being engaged with Taliban? Taliban as a organization is not providing equal rights to their women, okay, equal rights to their minority. So Taliban, the ideology of Taliban is not something that India actually agree on, but from the political point of view, from the foreign policies point of view, from the diplomatic point of view, we are engaging with the Taliban. So right now we are going to understand that why India is engaging with Taliban in the first place. Second, what are the concerns related to that? And the third thing which we are going to concern, what can be a possible way out? What can be a solution of it? Even if we want to engage with the Taliban, then what should be our conditions? So we need to have some kind of conditions on the basis of which we can have engagement with Taliban. But we cannot have the kind of engagement with Taliban which we could have with the civilian government, right? Now, the fourth article is from your science page. So in this article, actually it is talking about the impact on the wheat, impact of climate change on the wheat production. We all know that climate change is a reality. Okay, climate change, especially in the form of heat waves. If during the monsoon season, if heat waves are there, the heat waves are going to impact the monsoon, and most of the crop in our country based on monsoon, especially the kharif one. If monsoon is going to impact the kharif crops, or we can say that because of some heat because of heat waves, the harvest or the sowing season of the kharif crop has been delayed. If the kharif crops harvest is going to get delayed, then the sowing of the rabi crop is going to get delayed, and the harvesting of the rabi crop is going to get delayed later. So this is how things are related to each other. As a country, we have a specific season in which season we are going to sow which particular crop. If the climate is going to change, we need to change things according to that. So we need to be adaptive to the change in the climate. So this article is actually talking about that only. Okay, what are the issues, what are the impact of the heat waves on the wheat production, which is a rabi crop, and what can be a possible outcome of that. So we are going to know everything in detail. So let's start each and every article one by one. So let's come to our first article, which is it's kind of a good news, that Indian goods trade deficit. First of all, you need to understand it's a goods trade deficit. Trade deficit at 42-month low following a dip in gold and crude imports. We all know that gold and crude oil means crude oil, the kind of oil, the petroleum is being made from the crude oil only. So we all know that crude oil is some kind of a necessity, okay, for the economy or the growth of a country. And the gold, India's obsession with the gold has always been high, okay. So, and we don't produce gold, so we import gold. So we have so much dependency on the import when it comes to gold and crude oil because it's a necessity, gold because it's kind of a Indian obsession, you can say that. But right now there was a dip in the import of gold also and import of crude oil also. So this dip actually has affected the trade deficit, and now we have less trade deficit. First of all, we need to understand what is the trade deficit. Okay, Hussain, yes, we are going to discuss please ask me the same question when we will discuss the fourth news, okay. First of all, you need to understand what is the trade deficit. Trade deficit, you can say that it is the difference between imports and exports. Obviously, in our country, exports are higher, okay, and imports are higher and exports are less. So when there will be difference, there will be a trade deficit. Some kind of deficit is going to be there. Now, if imports in our country, imports are high and exports are less, what the government want, what we actually want, we want our exports to be high. We want to export more so that we can have more money coming to our country, and we want to reduce our imports so that the money which is going outside country, there can be a there can be a limit on that. Okay, we can keep our money here only, or here we can earn more money, and by earning more money we can have more growth. So this is the basic funda. But India as a country is always in a trade deficit. We are not in a trade surplus. Okay, or developing countries are mostly in a trade deficit. But the good news is that trade deficit hasn't become zero. It has reduced. Okay, it represents the gap between imports and exports has been a key concern due to its impact on foreign exchange reserve. Why trade deficit important? Because if trade deficit is less, it means we have more money in our country. If trade deficit is less, so it is definitely going to impact the exchange reserve. We will have more exchange reserve. If exports are high, we are going to have more money coming to our country, money in the form of foreign currency only. Okay, because all the trade happens in dollar only, right? So we will have more currency with us. Now, a high trade deficit put pressure on the current account balance also. If the trade deficit is high, then it is going to put pressure on the current account balance also, and it can definitely impact the value of Indian rupee as well. Okay, so if current account balance is good, then our rupee's value is going to be better. If it is high, then obviously the value of Indian rupee is going to get less, right? So that is the C. So this is the basic background. What is the meaning of trade deficit? Let's understand the news also. Okay, what actually is written in news. So you can see from this graph, India's trade deficit actually has gone down. Okay, it has gone down and it has reached to $14.05 billion. Okay, and you can see that in August 2024, it was $33.5 billion. It means we owed $33.5 billion to the world. Okay, we have imported items and we needed to give it back to them. So first point in your article is there is a sharp decline in trade deficit. It can be considered as a sharp decline. So it is not a very skewed decline. It is a very sharp decline. If UPSC is going to ask you one question, if there will be a statement in your this year's prelims that recently there was a sharp decline in trade deficit, so this statement is going to be a correct statement. So this is how UPSC is going to make question out of it. UPSC is not going to ask you about that particular data that India's trade deficit was $14.05 billion in February. So this is not going to be there in the paper. This line will be there in the paper, and this sharp word will be there. Okay, so there can be there was a sharp decline in trade deficit. This you need to understand. Right? This is just to make you understand that it fell to a 42-month low, that is $14.05 billion in February 2025. Second, why is that? Why is India's trade deficit had a sharp decline? So there has to be reason for that. Either the export has increased or the imports have come down. So here the reason is import has come down. So there is a decline in import. In which products? First, gold and silver imports has come down. Obviously, I have mentioned some data, but again, you need not to remember this data. Even this data you need not to remember. But you remember there is a sharp decline. What is the reason for that? Because our import has come down. In this also you need to remember. And in import, the gold and silver imports has come down. And the secondly, the crude and petroleum imports also have come down. And it was lowest in July 2023. Other than that, the total import has declined. Again, this data also you need not to mug up, just to make you understand. So what is the key takeaway from this slide? That there was a sharp decline in trade deficit. What is the reason for that? There was a decline in imports, especially the import in gold, silver and your gold, silver and crude oil and petroleum, you can say that. Ma'am, UPSC also dated to decades, very highly unlikely. Okay, UPSC doesn't want you to cram things, okay, or to mug up things. You cannot, remember each and every data, because every newspaper is filled with data. What you need to understand is the concept that India's, for example, is inflation in our country increasing or decreasing? This concept you should know. India's balance of payment, where we stand. India's foreign exchange, has it decreased over time or it has increased? It has decreased over time. The value of Indian rupee, okay, it has decreased over time as compared to dollar, or it has increased. So these are the concepts which you need to remember, that what was the trend. You need not to remember the exact value, that what is the value of Indian rupee right now. Obviously, for general knowledge you can remember that, but UPSC is going to ask you about the trend, how it has come down or it has gone up. So this is one of the trend. Okay, trends are very, very important for UPSC. Consumption of gold has not decreased, so does mean more gold is being smuggled. It is not about more gold is being smuggled. You know that the gold prices are reaching very high. So obviously, India's purchasing power is not going to be that much. So people are actually buying less gold. If people are going to buy less gold, obviously there will be less demand of gold and we are going to import less gold. So it is basically has to do with the price of gold. Secondly, what was there in the news, that the current account surplus projection is there. Actually, it's just a projection. Economist actually has predicted that there is going to be a surplus of $5 billion. It's a current account, not the capital account. You know that there are two accounts, capital account and the current account. So we always focus on the current account, that we are in deficit or we are in surplus, because with the capital we are definitely going to be in the deficit, because we have taken so much loans from other countries. So this will always be a, India being a developing country, this will always be a deficit. So here we focus more, that India's current account at least we can have it in surplus, right? So this is what is our, this is what we need to achieve. We need to achieve our current account surplus. This capital account surplus we cannot achieve right now. Okay, we will be in current account, capital account deficit only. But here we can achieve some kind of surplus. What is the meaning of capital and current? The same thing. Capital means if a huge money, okay, or some capital investment is there. Current means day-to-day transactions between two countries. So someone has imported something, someone has exported something. So what was the difference of that? So that will come under this current account. Okay. But now the projection is that if India's trade deficit is going to come down like the recent trend, in the same way, if it will go like this only or in this trend only, then we can actually have $5 billion surplus, okay, in financial year 2025 quarter 4, which is equivalent to 0.45% of GDP. But it is again, it is just a projection based on this particular fact that trade deficit has come down. This surplus is a significant improvement, suggestion of a temporary easing of the external account pressure. Okay. So this was the second thing which was there in the news. There was third fact also which was in news. As I have already told you, when the trade deficit is going to get down, either our import has come down or exports has gone up. But in this case, the export hasn't gone up. Export also has come down. So total export were 36.9 billion in 2025, but they fell to 10.84%. So export also have fell. Imports are also down, but as imports are more down, that's why our trade deficit is down, right? It is not equal to 0, it just has come down. Ma'am, please explain in short about current capital and what is the difference. Okay, look, you know that capital expenditure and current expenditure. Current expenditure means day to day. Capital expenditure means something, for example, if you have created an industry, okay, the money which you have invested is a capital investment. For example, if you've taken a big loan from some country, then that loan will be considered as because the money has come to your country, so it is going to create some kind of deficit. So that will go into the capital account. Other than that, day-to-day transaction will come under your current account. Okay. What will be the implication? Obviously, if the deficit is less, if the trade deficit has reduced, it signals lower import dependency and improved trade balance. So it is a good thing. It is a good thing that trade deficit has reduced, first of all. Second, we all know that current account surplus, if there is a projection, if the projection will be true, then it can stabilize the Indian rupee and it will strengthen our economy in general. Third thing, because imports have also declined, so that is not a good thing. Okay, so that is not something which we desire. We want to improve on our exports. So actually it can create concerns about global demand and India's trade competitiveness. So these are actually the implication of the three facts which were given in your news. Okay, right. Let's come to our second news, which is related to H1B visa. So H1B visa, first of all, let's understand what this visa is. It is actually a non-immigrant work visa. Okay, first of all, which allows US company to hire foreign workers. So a US company cannot hire a foreign worker without this visa. If there is a company, let's say Amazon, and Amazon want to hire personals, obviously USA population is less, the expertise is less, and the labor is not that cheap. Indian labor is much cheaper. So what they want to do, they want to hire people from India, because India, for example, there is an IITian who is an Indian and he is seeking job in Amazon, and Amazon as a company also, they want to seek a labor from India who is expert in IT, right? So what they are going to do, they want the Indian IITian to come to the USA. Then how the Indian IITian is going to go to the USA? For that, there will be issuance of this H1B visa. So it is basically a work visa. India has become more Atmanirbhar. Yes, if import dependency is reducing, we are becoming more Atmanirbhar. Okay. So what kind of specialized field? So it is not a labor visa. It is specialized work visa, such as IT, engineering, finance or medicine. If doctors are going there, if financial professionals are going there, if engineers or IT professionals are going there. So these companies actually give this H1B. Obviously the country gives H1B visa through these companies. Okay. It is particularly important for India because the most of the skilled professionals, because India, the English is also very good. Okay. So they can easily, acquire the environment of USA, okay, the IT companies. So it is very important for India because 70% of these visas, 70% is going to go to Indians only. Only 30% will go to the people from other countries. This special, okay, I am not talking about the overall visa, I am talking about the H1B visa only. Now, the news is about that over the past 20 years, the trend which is related to H1 visa has changed. So now we are going to understand what were the trends and how the things have changed in last 24 years. So first of all, you can look at this graph. First of all, it is about the educational qualification. So you can see that obviously in 2000, if we are compare year 2000 and year 2021, so it is a graph or chart of 20 years. So how the H1B visa changed over 20 years. So you can say that in 2000, 57% of visa which is being provided was given to the people who had bachelor degree. Only 31% was given to the people who had master's degree, right? And only 6% to the doctorate, or you can say that who had done PhD, and only 2% to professionals. But the things has changed over time. The number of people with the masters, okay, they actually got more H1B visa with time, and in 2021, 57% of visas are going to those people who have done masters, and only 34%. Actually, it has changed. It has reversed. The situation has reversed. So earlier, the bachelors were getting more H1 visa, but now the masters degree, the postgraduates are getting more H1B visas. Obviously, with doctorate and professional, the data has not changed much. So, this is the first observation how the nature of H1B visa changed. So, by this you can say that now if someone wants to seek H1B visa, it is highly likely that if they have master degrees, they will get more visa. If they have bachelor degrees, they are not going to get. They can get, but not in that much of surety. Now, next trend is related to the rising renewal versus new applicants. So, you can see that in 2000, what was the scenario in 2000? In 2000, there were not much professionals which were there in USA, right? So, you can see that this light blue color denote the new applicants. New applicants means the people who are applying for the first time, and this dark blue represent the people who actually wanted to have renewal. Okay, H1B visa, you need to renew it also. So there were very less people who wanted to renew it because the most of the people were coming. So in 2000, the people who were seeking, who had this new application, they were getting the visa in percentage, right? And only very less people were getting renewal. But with time, because these people, they accumulated work over time and they want renewal again and again. But now the situation has changed. Now the percentage of the people who are going to get H1B visa, most of them are those who actually seeking renewal, who are already there and they want to continue their work, and new applicants are getting very less visas. Okay? So this is how the scene has changed. Third is related to denial rate and political influence. How the political influence is going to impact the denial rate. As I have already mentioned, during the time of Biden, just before the second, now we know that there is Trump. Now, just before the Trump, when there was Joe Biden, at that point of time, the denial rate was very low. So, denial rate was around 2%. So, most of the H1B visa got approved during the time of Joe Biden. But before Joe Biden, there was the first term of Donald Trump. During his time, you can see that the denial rate was very high. Very high denial rate. That's why we are worrying that this time also this denial rate can go up and it can create issue for the Indians. During the time of Barack Obama, in his time the denial rate was between 5 to 10%, which is okay. Not as good as during the time of Joe Biden, but not as problematic during the time of Donald Trump. So this is the scene, how the political party which is there in the US or the president of USA, his ideology is going to impact the denial and approval of H1B visa. Second, next observation is related to the dominance of Indian worker. So this is something that is good. How Indian workers are dominating. So you can look from this graph, this red line represent Indians and this green line represent China, and this is the rest of the world. The blue line represent rest of the world. So in 2000, 9% H1B visa was going to Chinese, 40% was going to rest of the world, and 50% was going to Indians. Okay, at that time also Indians had 50% of visa was going to Indians, but now the things has changed. Now the Indians have 73% share in H1B visa. So out of 100 people who are getting H1B visa or going to work in the USA company, 73 are Indian. Only 12 are Chinese and 16% for the rest of the world. So you can say that India has dominance when it comes to work in the US, especially in the specialized field like IT, medicine and engineering, in such kind of fields, finance, etc. So that is something that is a good observation. Now, who are the top companies which are sponsoring this H1B visa? So Amazon actually top in that. So Amazon is the company which gives the largest H1B visa, right? through it we can get the H1B visa. Other than that, there are other sponsors. So for example, Cognizant, Infosys, TCS, Google, etc. They are also giving, through which you can get H1B visa. But Amazon actually on the top of that. Okay, so this is all about the trend about the H1B visa. Okay. Denial means rejection. Yes, denial means rejection. So denial means saying no to someone. Let's come to our next news. Next news is related to your international relation. It is about New Delhi's perilous recalibration with the Taliban. It means that actually article is talking about, yes, it is true that India is engaging with Taliban, but is it beneficial for India in long term or not? So article is going to analyze that. So what is the basics of article? Why it is that? What is the context of that? Now, context here is India has gradually been engaging with the Taliban since they took over in Afghanistan in 2021. In 2022, we actually reopened our embassy at Kabul as well. So since 2022 also, okay, we have our embassy there. Obviously, we did not recognize Taliban as a government of Afghanistan, but we had our embassy there. Thirdly, something which is actually triggering the issue, trigger is that now reports that India may allow the Taliban to appoint a new envoy to the New Delhi. Now someone from the Talibani government is going to come to India and they are going to stay in India as an envoy. And this can actually create concern because Taliban is associated with the terrorist group. Taliban is a terrorist group and someone from the Taliban is going to come and sit in the Delhi, and they actually, it can be problematic for India. So that's why it is something that is triggering the issue. That's why we are finding so many articles in newspapers. Now let's understand what the article is talking about. So article is first of all exploring that why is India doing that? Why is India engaging with Taliban in the first place? India is not trying to engage with the Taliban. Actually, India wants to engage with Afghanistan as a country because Afghanistan is very important for us. Afghanistan's geographical position is very important for us, right? And historically also, we had very good relations with Afghanistan. So we cannot let Afghanistan to be on its own way. We need to have our presence in Afghanistan. We have so many projects also which are related. For example, TAPI project. It is, Afghanistan is part of that, right? So we need to be engaged with the Afghanistan. But we all know that this is the reality. Right now in Afghanistan, Taliban is the major power. That's why we are engaging with Taliban. So first of all, we have strategic influence. Afghanistan is important to India's regional interest. Okay, regional interest. We need Afghanistan because Pakistan is a problematic country. With China also, we have issue. Okay, and we all know that China is very much interested in Afghanistan. So there is always a presence of China. Other than that, the Pakistan right now is not having very good terms with Afghanistan. Right now, obviously, Pakistan and Afghanistan, they had good relations in the past, but they were always fighting over this thing also because sometimes Pakistan accused Afghanistan to that they sponsor terrorism in Pakistan. So there was always an impact of Afghanistan or Pakistan, and there was impact of Pakistan also on Afghanistan. But if there is a divide between Pakistan and Afghanistan, whatever be the reason, so it is in interest of India. So it is something that interests India. So that's why India is actually engaging with Pakistan. So if with the Taliban. Okay. So this is the major reason. But what are the concerns related to that? So the basic concern is that Taliban's reputation. Taliban is some kind of organization which is actually guilty of human right violation. Human right when it comes to especially women. Women are denied education, jobs, and even access to public spaces. United Nations actually has called this gender apartheid. What is the meaning of that? It means we are going to exclude a particular gender, okay, with time. So first of all, we will say no, you cannot, drive a car. So they will be sidelined in one thing, okay. If we will say no, you cannot get education. So if they won't get education, they are not going to go to the work also in the future. They are not going to part of the decision making also. So if we want to sideline a particular group, this is known as. So this word came from the racial apartheid. So it started in South Africa. What happened in South Africa? In South Africa, the white people wanted to sideline the black ones. What they did? They had separate stairs for the blacks and whites. Whites stairs were the wide ones, the black stairs were the narrow ones. So this tried to sideline a particular community, so that community cannot have the confidence to come to the mainstream. So the same thing is being happened in Afghanistan with the women, right? Most country actually refuse to recognize Taliban because of this reason only, okay? They are not very fair towards women and towards their minority also. So this is basically the reason. And this is a concern for India also. Second, there is a risk of terrorism. Obviously, Afghanistan has become a terrorist hub under the Taliban. We all know that. Secondly, its engagement with Islamic State. Okay, let's say a Taliban can be sympathetic to India, let's say. But Islamic State is not going to be sympathetic to India, right? Its attacks have targeted embassy and hotels, killing many. Pakistan is facing Taliban-linked terror attacks also, right? India is also a target. IS has claimed that they are going to attack Indian consulate in Islamabad. So, Taliban as a terror group can create issue with us. Taliban's engagement with Islamic State actually can create issue with us. Okay, so if we are going to have an envoy in our country who is from Taliban, so they can definitely have link with Islamic State. Even if the mainstream Taliban doesn't want it, but somehow this engagement of these terror group can create issue in our country. Now, okay. So this is the second concern. First concern is related to the human right violation which is being done by the Taliban, and the second issue is related to the terrorism risk. But what is the outcome of that? So what we should do as a country? Because we know that we need to engage with Afghanistan. And who is in power in Afghanistan? Taliban is in power in Afghanistan. So we cannot, move away from the Afghanistan altogether. So we need to have some kind of engagement. But the article is talking about how we can leverage this engagement. For example, we can have demand-based engagement with Taliban. Demand that Taliban eliminate terror group operating from Afghanistan before we are going to deepen our ties with Taliban. So we can put some kind of pressure. For example, if we are going to have an envoy in our country, so along with that, through that envoy, we can put pressure on Afghanistan to disengage Taliban with any kind of terror activity. Second, we can learn from China and Pakistan struggles. China and Pakistan, they actually both engaged with Taliban, and they both were the victim of the terrorism which is being created by Taliban, right? Third, consider whether the risk outweigh the benefits. If we are saying that we have benefit if we are going to engage with the Taliban, because Afghanistan as a country is strategically important for us, right? But this is one of the benefits, but there can be the negative outcomes also. So we need to weigh it out. We need to weigh it, that which is more important for us. If the risk outweighs the benefit, then we need to consider the engagement with Taliban. So this is all about the article. Okay. So let's look at the another article which is related to the how climate change is going to impact the wheat production in our country. Like wheat as a grain is very important for India's food security. Okay, we all know that. And wheat is the second most consumed cereal after rice. But rice producing states are more as compared to the wheat producing states, because wheat yield is very high, especially in Haryana, Punjab. The yield is high, but the states are very less. But if there is going to be heat wave, so if a small area is going to get affected, obviously if yield is high, then the high yield is going to get affected. Okay, and it can create some kind of food scarcity in our country. So we need to understand how climate change is basically impacted your wheat production, right? We should improve relations with Afghanistan, but concerned that how we are going to tackle campaign against terrorism at global level. It is not only about global level, or we need to show it to the global community. It is about the ground reality that terrorism is the big threat in our country. Now, so let's understand what is the basic of that, what actually is there in the article. So it is all about Indian Ocean. Why heat waves is coming to our country? Indian Ocean is warming at an accelerated rate. Okay, we all know that, which in turn is going to impact the monsoon. Heating of Indian Ocean is going to impact the monsoon. Why? The monsoon originates in Indian Ocean only. Okay, you all know that one wave from Bay of Bengal, one from Arabian Sea, finally they reach to the mountainous region, then they create this monsoon. Okay, the rainy season, and the rain is very important for the production of our crops, right? So India's crops are basically dependent on monsoon. Okay, and the monsoon is dependent on the climate of Indian Ocean. So Indian Oceans, if Indian Ocean is getting heated, so it is definitely going to impact the monsoon also. And monsoon is something on which our agriculture depends. Now the Kharif or the summer crop season is basically going to be impacted by the monsoon, because if rice is Kharif crop, means you can say the rice is a Kharif crop. So rice is being grown somewhere. Now if the monsoon has delayed, then the harvest of rice is also going to get delayed. If rice is going to get harvested later, for example 1 month later, and after the Kharif crop, or you can say that rice, we are going to sow our wheat. So if it is going to harvest it later, then the wheat sowing season is going to shift to another month, and its harvest is going to shift another month. Okay, so there will be shifting. There will be a shifting in the pattern of the sowing and harvesting season of the crops. So this is the basic understanding. Okay, so this delay and the beginning of Rabi season, and wheat is a Rabi crop. So this is how the change in the change in the warmness of Indian Ocean is going to impact our wheat. Okay, this is how they are related. Now, rising temperature and concerns. What are the concerns? Actually, the thing is, India's warm this February 2025, this one, the last month, it was actually the warmest February in last 124 years. So it is going to be a warm. This time the summer are going to be more warm. March is expected to experience above normal temperature and more heat wave days. If there are going to be so many heat waves, we all know that this is the time we are going to harvest our wheat next month. Next month is a wheat harvest month. You know that in April, Baisakhi comes. During the time of Baisakhi, wheat is being cut or harvested. So, but now in the March only the similar kind of condition which could have created in the April are going to get created. Okay, so this is how we are going to, this heat wave is going to impact the production of wheat, because now the more heat is going to be there in the month of February and March, then the texture of your food grain, the kind of protein, the kind of nutrition which should be there in your wheat is going to get changed only, right? So this is how, let's understand in detail how everything is going to get changed. Okay, first of all, let's understand the wheat in India, where mostly the northwestern states are the wheat producing states. Especially Punjab, Haryana, UP and Rajasthan and MP, Punjab, Haryana, UP and MP. So these 4 states are the major wheat growing state in our country, right? What is the status right now? It is sown in winter during the October, December, and it is harvested early summer from February to April. April when Baisakhi is there. But in 2024-25, wheat production was estimated to 115 million tons, which is very good actually, which is a very good prediction. And we can actually get this much amount of wheat. So, and that's why the procurement target was lowered to 30 million tons. Again, these are just the facts about the wheat in our country. Again, they are not directly related to the heat waves. Again, in May 2022, we have put ban on the export of wheat. Why? Because there was a fight, there was a war going on in Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine is actually the country which actually export wheats. So because there was a problem, so we wanted to procure our wheat in our country only. But the point is that how wheat is going to impact the, so how heat is going to impact the wheat. Now, what causes heat waves? heat waves. If ocean is going to get heated more, then whatever kind of air is going to flow over it, they are going to get heat only. So that air will become a heat wave only. Right? Again, in 2022 study in the international journal, it has said that the global warming is causing heat stress in wheat, leading to lower grain production and poor grain quality. How? Look, how it is going to impact it. If there is more heat, obviously the photosynthesis and respiration rate of wheat plant is going to get affected, right? Okay, and respiration photosynthesis is very important for the growth of a plant. Second, the stress hormone and protein. If there is going to be more heat, the stress hormone in plant are going to get increased. So it is going to change the texture and change the nutrition and amount of that wheat also, making it harder for the plant to survive for a longer term. Third, water and nutrients are not absorbed properly if there is more heat. Last, fewer grains grow and they are smaller in size, okay, reducing overall wheat yield. So the size of the grain is going to come down. The size of the grain will come down, then the overall yield is going to get reduced only. So this is how the heat can impact the wheat in general, the plant of wheat. So it is not only it is going to impact it externally. Heat can actually impact the internal composition of wheat as well. Now, extreme heat reduces wheat yield because the size of the grain is going to get reduced with time, which is going to affect the other things. Now, what are the important stages where the heat wave is going to play a major role, especially during the flowering stage? Okay, wheat is highly sensitive to heat at that point of time, and secondly, when there is a grain filling. So, heat shortens this stage, which reduces the starch accumulation. That's why the size of the wheat has come down. So, this is how the heat wave is going to impact the wheat in general. But what are the solutions for that? There is only one solution, because climate change is reality. Adaptation strategy is the best solution, so that we can change the sowing or harvesting season of wheat only. Okay, we need not to comply to the months which traditionally according to which we are traditionally sowing and harvesting the wheat or the rabi or kharif crops. First of all, there can be two kind of solution. Short term. What can be short term? We can give financial support and compensation if there is a decrease in the yield of wheat production. Weather monitoring we can have, but obviously these are the short term solution, not the exact solution. Long term solutions or strategies are something which we are going to see. First of all, we need to adjust the sowing dates only. Okay, we need to adjust. If the heat wave is there and the February month is going to act like a March month, or March month is going to act like a February month, April month, then we can actually change the sowing and harvesting month of wheat and rabi and kharif crop both. Second, the depending and using climate resilient wheat varieties, we can have some specialized wheat variety which is not going to get impacted by the heat waves, and we can have better resource management such as pest control, water and fertilizer, so that the quality, the nutrition of wheat and the size of wheat, the starch amount of the wheat can be maintained, okay, as it is. So this was all about today's newspaper. I hope you understood it. There were 4 important articles. I have explained it. If you have any queries regarding this article, you can ask me. Ma'am, weather is not long-term solution. Weather is not long-term solution means weather monitoring system. Weather monitoring system is obviously, it is one of the solution, but not long-term solution, right? Yes, GS Foundation course is available. Okay. So let's wrap up our DNA for today, and I'm going to meet you next week. Till then, you please do read your newspaper also, and those who are giving 2025 exam, this is the high time you please do study. You cannot take now the time in an easy way. So thank you so much. Have a very nice day.